Okay, we're going to talk about our review handout on inverse functions and composite functions. Okay, so here we've got this question. Juan pays 8.75 euros for a single movie ticket, and the total amount Juan pays for the movie tickets can be used with this model. Okay, where X represents the number of tickets and Y represents the amount paid per year. Okay, last year Juan spent 60 euros. So here we go. Y equals 8.75 X. X represents tickets. Y represents amount paid. And they've told us that he spent 60. So this is going to be our Y value. So I'm going to write 60 equals 8.75 X. And so to solve for X, we have to divide both sides by 8.75. And we use our handy dandy calculator, and we get X is equal to 6.85. But the question is how many tickets, maximum number of tickets. So I can't buy 0.85 of a ticket, so it's going to be 6 tickets to buy for the movie. Okay, so Maureen buys an annual movie ticket for 50 euros and then pays 250 euros for each movie afterwards. Write down an equation for Maureen's information. Okay, so we have an initial cost of $50, right? And our rate is $2.50 per movie. So if I'm going to write it, this is a linear function. So our initial cost is going to be this, and our rate is going to be $2.50. So now we can write this as y equals $2.50 or 2.5 x plus 50, right? Because our initial cost is 50 and our rate per movie is 250. At any point, you should hit pause if you and maybe go back and you can hear the explanation again if I'm explaining it too quickly. Okay, during the year, Juan and Maureen each buy the same number of tickets and will pay the same total amount of money. Find the number of tickets when this happens. So basically, I'm going to take both of these equations. I'm going to take this equation here and this equation here, because we want to find out when they buy the same number of tickets. So I'm going to take each of those amounts and make them equal to each other. So 8.75x equals 2.5x plus 50. And now we can figure out when they're going to have the same number of tickets. Okay, so I would subtract 2.5x on both sides. Okay, make that go away. And then I've got 6.25x equals 50. And then I can divide both sides by 6.25. And then I get x equals 8 tickets. By the way, all of these are actual IB questions on an IB test. This tells you how many marks on the IB test each question was. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay. Um, yeah, this is the next question. No. Yeah. All right. This is a little bit of review from last semester. The diagram shows we've got this triangle. Point A is coordinates 3, 9. Point B is 15, 6. And point C is 5, 3. Find the slope of AC. Okay, so to figure out the slope of AC, line AC is this guy right here, right? So remember that slope is equal to rise over run, right? And if we look at our IB formula packet, the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so our change of the y is 9 minus 3, right? We've got our y values divided by our x values. 3 minus 5. And then we're going to get 9 minus 3 is 6, and 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So our slope is equal to negative 3. Please write it as a single number. I mean, if you leave it like that, I mean, it's correct, but, you know, come on. Okay, so some people have asked me this. If I, let's just say instead of 9 minus 3, what if I did 3 minus 9? This blue one minus that blue one, and then I did 5 minus 3. Because people ask me, which one's y1, which one's y2? So it doesn't matter if I'm going to make this y1 and that one y2, and if I'm going to, or vice versa, and then I have to do the same with the red ones. I'm still going to get negative 3, right? Because 3 minus 9 is negative 6, and 5 minus 3 is positive 2. We're still going to get the same answer regardless. Okay, question B. Determine whether this is a right angle. So ACB. So we want to know if this angle here, ACB, is a right angle. So in order to do that, I need to figure out the slope of this line. So let's figure out the slope of BC. I'm going to put a little tiny BC there. And this here was a slope of AC, so I'm going to put a tiny little AC here. So I know what slope I'm working with. Okay. So the slope of BC, I'm going to do 15, no, rise over run, right? Okay, 6 minus 3 divided by 15 minus 5. And that gets me 6 minus 3 is 3, and 15 minus 5 is 10. And so that is the slope of the purple line. Now, if it's going to be a right triangle, then this and this has to be a perpendicular. Then this here has to be the opposite sign and the reciprocal. So instead of being negative, it's going to be plus. Instead of being 3 over 1, it's going to be 1 over 3. So the perpendicular slope to this is this. And notice that 3 over 10 is not equal to positive 1/3. Therefore, it is not a right triangle. one of the important things we learned last semester was if two lines are perpendicular, the slope is going to be the opposite sign. So instead of negative, it would be positive, and it's going to be the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 3, or 3 over 1, is equal to 1 over 3. Okay, so let's do the next question. A straight line L is parallel to BC and passes through A. Find the equation of L. Okay, so if it's parallel to BC, then it's going to have the same slope as BC. So if it's parallel to BC, it's going to have the same slope of BC, which we know is 3 over 10. And if it passes through point A has a coordinate of 3, 9. So so in order to get it in this form, I like to use point slope form. And you may be familiar with this. We used this quite a bit last semester. And it's also in your formula packet. So when you're doing your IB test, you can look at it in your formula packet. So here on page 5 of your formula packet, I'm just showing you how you have these different equations of straight lines. Okay, so I like to start off with this one here, and then we rearrange it to make it look like this. Okay, so we know our slope is 3 over 10, and we know our point A is 3, 9. So I'm going to put in 9 there and x minus 3 there. Okay, because our x value is 3. Our y value is 9. And our slope is 3 over 10. Okay, so one thing, to get rid of the fraction, because they just said A, B, and C have to be integers, right? So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 10. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 10. So we have y minus 9 and 3. Okay, I'm multiplying both sides by 10, and the reason I'm doing that is to make this denominator go away, and now we're going to have only integers. So now I'm going to have 10 times y gives me 10y. 10 times negative 9 is 90. And then I have 3 times x, which gives me 3x, and 3 times negative 3, which is negative 9. And we're trying to make it in this form here, where I have everything on one side of the equal sign. So I'm just going to rewrite this here. So okay, so what I would do is I would subtract 3x on both sides of the equal sign, and I would also add 9 on both sides of the equal sign to make that go away. And so now I've got negative 3x plus 10y, negative 90 and positive 9 is going to give me negative 81 equals 0. And now I've got it in this form. Now, on the IB test, we really prefer to have this x coefficient positive. So if I multiply everything by a negative, I would have 3x minus 10y plus 81 equals 0. But honestly, both of these answers are correct. And if you were doing this on my test, I'd give you full credit for either of these answers. And these are the answers in this form. Okay. All right, next question. Um, so consider these two lines. Um, line L is ax plus 5. Find the value of a. Okay, so a is the slope, right? Um, so to figure out the slope, okay, note the scale is not the same on this graph. Okay, let's zoom out. Okay, the scale is not the same because this goes by 2, 4, 6, 8, and this goes by 1, 2, 3, 4. So we just have to use, we need to be very careful. I can't say, oh, this is a slope of -1, because it's not. Okay, so remember slope, is rise over run. It goes down 1, and it goes down 1 and over 2. Okay, you may want to hit pause and rewind if this is unclear. It goes down 1, like from 5 to 4, and it goes over one line here, and going over one line is from 0 to 2. So my slope is -1/2. Okay. The equation of line 2 is this, right? So find the coordinates of R. We want to find out where they intersect. So I'm just going to show my work here, and you can hit pause if you want to copy this down, but I'm just going to walk it through. So our new equation of line L is this, right? And our other equation is this. And if we're trying to find out the coordinates of point R is where they intersect. So if I want to find out where they intersect, I need to make both of these equations equal to each other. So, and it's going to be a decimal. So I'm going to show you how to do this on the calculator. Hit pause if you want to copy this down onto your paper. Okay, so let's do this on our calculator, our TI-83. So you're going to hit, so the first thing you need to do is you hit the Y equals button, and then you get this screen here. And now I'm going to type in these values. So remember, for those who are new to the class and maybe have not played around with the calculator, to get this here, this is a negative sign. So I'm going to push this negative in the parentheses. And this means you're having a negative number. Whereas this negative here refers to subtraction. So this is a negative. We have a negative 0.5x. So 0.5x, and the x button is this here, xt theta n. I'm going to push that to get my x. And then plus 5. And then that's this first equation. The second equation is -2x plus 3. Okay. You can watch this in slow motion if you need to see what buttons I pushed and that sort of thing. Okay, so now I'm going to push second trace, and we want to find out where they intersect. So I'm going to go down to 5 and hit enter. And now we can see our two lines. And notice it says first curve, I hit enter. It has second curve, I hit enter. It says guess, I hit enter. And now it tells me my intersection is -1.33, comma 5.6, repeating. Okay? And for those who are new to the class, IB wants our answers to be in 3 significant figures, and so that means 3 numbers that are not 0 in a row. Okay. The next one, let's just walk it through it. So passing through point 2, comma 3. So I'm going to replace x with 2. I'm going to replace y with 3. This is just like we did on the previous one. And then our slope, it's parallel to line 2. So line 2 had a slope of -2. So I'm going to replace m with -2. So now I can do distributive property with that -2. I can add 3 on both sides, and now it is in this form, this slope-intercept form. Okay. Okay. This is kind of a tricky question, and then I'll do the rest of the handout on a different video after this. Okay, so when we have inverse functions, you need to remember that we're going to switch the x with the y and the y with the x. Let's read the question first. The perimeter of the given square P can be represented by this function, where a is greater than 0, right? Because you're not going to have a negative perimeter or a negative area, right? A is the area of the square. Okay, area is the area of the square. The graph of the function P is shown from 0 to 2.5. 25 area. So this value here is 25. Okay. So in my x direction, I've gone 25. In my y direction, I've gone 20. It's helpful to write these coordinates of the endpoints here. You know this is 0, 0. If you want to write that, you can. Okay. Write down the value when P of A is 25. So if A is 25, we know that the perimeter is going to be equal to 20. Okay. When it says write down, all they want you to do is write down the answer. Okay. Another way to do it, if you wanted to show A, you could say, well, P of 25 equals, what's our function? It's 4 square root of A, right? That's our function, right? Let's just say that graph didn't have the lines and I couldn't figure it out just from the grid like we here. We know this is our function, right? So, and they wanted you to figure out when A is 25, so I'm going to replace this A with 25. Okay. I should have written it initially like this. Right. So we're going to replace the A with 25, and then now we have 4 times square root of 25. Well, you know the square root of 25 is 5, and we get 20. Okay. Hence, so the range of P of A is from 0 to n. Write down the value of n. Okay, so our domain, let's just be clear, our domain is from 0 to 25. I guess it's A, not X. So, but they're asking for the range here, right? So the range is our y values here. If you look here, it goes from 0 to 20. Okay, so if it goes from 0 to 20 and we're using this here, then we know n is equal to 20. Okay, you may want to like hit pause, replay to see this again, because it's kind of helpful. Okay, on the graph above, draw the inverse function. Okay, so if I'm going to draw the inverse, remember that we switch x and y coordinates. Okay, so if I'm going to switch the x and y coordinates of points, then my new points are going to be, the new point is going to be 20, comma 25. So we go 20, right there, right? 20, comma 25. Let's see if we can find some other points here. This right here on our original graph looks like 2, 4, comma 8. So the inverse of this is going to be 8, comma 4. Let's find another point that's clear on this graph right there. This is 12, comma 14. So the new point would be 14, comma 12. And using these 3 points, I'm going to try to draw the curve of the inverse function. Okay, and this is the inverse function. Okay. And this is my original function. This is f of x. And something that should be apparent whenever I do this, it should be a reflection on the line this is the line y equals x. And whenever you have the line of y equals x, notice that the reflection is symmetrical. Okay, that looks like a fishy. Whoo, swim, swim, swim. Okay, question D. In the context of this question, explain the meaning of this. Okay, so what this says is when the perimeter is 8, the area is 4. Okay, and as I've mentioned, this was an IB question, and this tells you how many points each part was worth. So let's just say you couldn't answer question D. It's only worth 1 point. Okay, 3 points for drawing the graph. So 1 point for the other thing. So when you're taking the real IB test, you may want to look at how much the points are worth, and maybe if there's something that you don't quite get, maybe you skip this part of the question and then come back to it. That sort of thing when you're taking the IB test. It's a timed test, and you've got to be aware of the time. I'm going to hit pause, and the rest will be on another video.